There's another story that kind of unsettling. So you know the basketball superstar Caitlin Clark, all right? Caitlin Clark comes in and is immediately the biggest star in the league. Apparently there's some jealousy that might be manifesting itself into physical inappropriate conduct.
The Indiana Fever's locker room was alive with the familiar post-practice chaos just minutes earlier. The sound of music spilling from a portable speaker, the slap of high fives between teammates, and Sophie Cunningham tossing one-liners that sent waves of laughter across the room. But the shift, when it came, was instantaneous and absolute. It was as if the air itself had been drained out, replaced by something heavy, pressing down on every shoulder in the room. Sophie moved forward with the deliberate pace of someone who knew the weight of what she was about to say. She didn't need to call for silence. The room fell quiet the moment she planted her feet in front of the cameras. That fierce, unblinking game face that had stared down the league's hardest hitters was there. But something new lingered in her expression. It wasn't the adrenaline of competition. It was the gravity of someone carrying news she wished she didn't have to deliver. Her voice came steady, almost too steady, the kind of control you hear when someone is holding back a tide of emotion. She told the reporters, her teammates, and everyone watching that this was not a matter of game strategy, trades, or injuries. It was something far more personal. Before the murmurs could rise, Lexi Hull stepped up beside her, her hand grazing Sophie's as she reached for the microphone. A silent show of unity. Lexi's tone was calm but thick with emotion, every word sharpened by the knowledge that they were about to detonate the biggest story of the season. Caitlin Clark, the franchise player, the reason ticket sales had skyrocketed and arenas had filled, would be stepping away from the court indefinitely. No details, no timeline, just a personal matter. The silence afterward was deafening. The kind where you can hear the buzz of the overhead lights, the kind where the weight of the words presses on your chest until breathing feels like effort.
Now, LeBron James, maybe the best basketball player ever, he's been watching this situation. Go.
You know, there's a very small number of men and women that actually get to live out their dream of playing a professional sport. And we have grown-ass men and women out here doing whatever they can to try to make sure that does not happen. That is the weirdest thing in the world. But
outside that locker room, the announcement moved at the speed of wildfire. Within 10 minutes, it wasn't just trending. It was the only thing anyone in the WNBA sphere was talking about. X lit up with frantic speculation, fan theories, and hastily assembled evidence threads. Instagram was flooded with slow-motion clips of the press conference. Strangers in the comments playing amateur lip readers, claiming Sophie's jaw tightened just before she stepped aside, swearing they heard Lexi's voice fracture on Caitlin's name. TikTok was a different beast entirely. Fan edits paired with dramatic music, racking up hundreds of thousands of views in minutes. The rumor mill spun faster than the Fever's PR team could blink. Whispers of an undisclosed incident during a road trip, guesses about personal struggles, even conspiracies with no basis in reality, but thousands of shares anyway. Meanwhile, Sophie and Lexi faced the press with the kind of composure that makes headlines. Polite smiles, firm refusals to elaborate, repeating only that they were protecting their teammates' privacy. And yet, their loyalty was gasoline on the fire. Fans began digging back through recent games for signs they'd missed. The rare occasions when Caitlin's post-game interviews felt shorter, her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Her energy seemed just a fraction dimmer. A few diehards pointed to that one tense exchange during warm-ups, caught on a sideline camera and quickly brushed off as a joke, or the late-night Instagram story she posted. Black background, plain white text, focus on what matters. At the time, it had seemed like a motivational mantra. Now it felt like a warning.
All right, just to be clear, Caitlin Clark is being fouled at a record rate. Some of them are brutal fouls, and a lot of the refs are looking the other way. And the women fouling her are doing it on purpose.
This is the kind of mystery that the WNBA community thrives on, the kind that pulls everyone into the hunt for the hidden story. And for those who have followed Sophie Cunningham's career, her role in this moment was monumental. She's never been the quiet, behind-the-scenes type. Her identity as a player has been forged in fire. The unapologetic protector, the one who plays with an edge sharp enough to cut through the court's noise. From Caitlin Clark's first day in Fever colors, Sophie had made it crystal clear. Anyone trying to rough up the rookie would have to go through her first. And she didn't just talk, she backed it up, stepping in during heated moments, clapping back at pundits who dared to criticize Caitlin, even calling out officiating she believed was unfair. That's why her voice breaking, ever so slightly during this announcement, landed like a gut punch. This wasn't the Sophie who stares down her opponents without blinking. This was Sophie stripped of her usual armor, standing in front of the world asking them to back off, to give Caitlin the space she clearly needed. Over the past few weeks, her support had been woven into the smallest details, coordinating warm-up outfits with Lexi before tough home games, amplifying Caitlin's biggest plays online, locking eyes with her in huddles like she was silently promising, "I've got you." Now, here she was, turning that same loyalty toward the press, willing to take whatever questions, scrutiny, or heat came her way if it meant Caitlin didn't have to. This wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about the unshakable code between teammates who have gone to war together on the court.
And it literally pisses me off when people are like, she's not the face of the league.
Who would be?
What? No, there's really good, well-known people in our league. I'm not discrediting them. We have a lot of badasses in our league.
Yeah.
Hell yeah to that. I'm all for that. But when people try to argue that she's not the face of our league, or if our league would be where we're at without her, you're dumb as shit.
Yeah.
You're literally dumb as fuck.
If Sophie brought the fire to that press conference, Lexi Hull brought the quiet, deliberate weight that made the room lean in closer. Lexi has never been the teammate who chases headlines. She's the player whose game speaks in precision. Clean footwork, smart reads, and the ability to find her moment without demanding the spotlight. So when she stepped in mid-sentence beside Sophie, it wasn't a dramatic takeover. It was a quiet shift that spoke volumes. Her voice was calm, steady, but there was an unmistakable tremor buried deep inside, the kind that comes when the heart and the mind are at war. For fans who have been watching closely, Lexi and Caitlin's connection this season has been something special, subtle, but unmistakable. The extra high five after a big shot, the quick glance to the bench after a defensive stop, the way Lexi was always among the first to wrap Caitlin in a hug after a game winner. Their chemistry wasn't just on the stat sheet, it was in the little things that spoke to a mutual respect built in the grind of practices, bus rides, and post-game cooldowns. That's why Lexi's voice, even without details, hit like a personal admission of loss. In recent weeks, she had been coming into her own, knocking down threes with confidence, pulling off sharp defensive reads, and even becoming a quiet fashion icon with Sophie during pre-game tunnels. Their coordinated fits lighting up social media. But in that moment, all of that faded into the background. Her body language said it before her words did. This wasn't about points or headlines. This was about standing beside someone she cares about, even when the cameras are rolling and the world is demanding answers they won't give.
Sees the game at a bigger scale, obviously with the platform that she's created for herself, and then that's transitioned to the game. It's huge. And I think for me, especially as a point guard and as someone that's delivering a lot of the passes that lead to shots, if I miss, she's definitely going to say, you got the next one. I can count on her for keeping me confident and positive.
What amplified the tension more than anything was Caitlin Clark's complete and total silence. In an era where star athletes break news themselves on Instagram, where Twitter posts can shift narratives before teams even issue a press release, her absence was louder than any statement could have been. Just weeks ago, she had been casually sparring with Sophie over her lack of online presence, tossing out behind-the-scenes snapshots from practice, joking with reporters that she preferred to focus on basketball, not likes. Back then, it seemed like a throwaway line. Now, it reads like a breadcrumb, a prelude to a disappearance. Watching her most recent interviews in hindsight, the signs were there. Shorter answers, her trademark spark dimmed just enough to notice, quick pivots away from personal topics. It was as if she had been slowly retreating behind an invisible wall while still playing at the highest level. And during the press conference, her empty seat wasn't just a gap in the frame, it was a presence all its own. That vacancy demanded attention, forcing every camera and every reporter to address the absence, even without a single word from her. Her silence became a blank canvas onto which every rumor, theory, and whispered source could be painted. This wasn't just any player missing from the lineup. This was the face of the Fever, the league's brightest draw, the reason TV ratings were climbing and ticket sales were breaking records. Her absence didn't just alter a box score. It shifted the gravitational pull of the WNBA in real time. Rival teams scrambled to adjust their game plans. Media outlets restructured entire storylines. And deep inside the Fever's locker room, strategy meetings suddenly had to account for the loss of the player around whom every system had been built.
People will try to argue that she's not the face of our league.
Yeah.
Or if our league would be where we're at without her. You're dumb as shit.
Yeah.
You're literally dumb as fuck.
And yet, if the public saw a team bracing for collapse, the mood behind closed doors was something entirely different. The absence of Caitlin Clark had created a vacuum, yes, but it had also ignited something defiant in the Fever's core. Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull showed up to practice sharper, voices louder in huddles, their body language radiating the Trias energy. You could see it in the extra reps after drills, in the way they pulled younger teammates aside for quick pep talks, in the almost symbolic wristbands that carried Caitlin's number. They weren't pretending the loss didn't hurt. They were building a wall around it, channeling it into focus. Social media became their silent rallying point. Throwback clips of Caitlin's best plays popping up on their stories. Pre-game photos where her presence was felt even in absence. Every subtle gesture was a signal. This team wasn't folding. The timing made the stakes higher. The Fever had been hitting stride, stacking key wins, and finally shifting the narrative from rebuild to contender. Now those gains were under threat. Every upcoming game was a test, not just of skill, but of resolve. Without Caitlin's gravity pulling defenders, without her energy fueling the crowd, the Fever would have to win differently. Grinding possessions, locking in defensively, and leaning on a shared sense of purpose that went beyond basketball. And that, more than anything, was the challenge Sophie and Lexi seemed ready to embrace head-on.
We've seen that a couple of times, and there's a steal, 3 consecutive turnovers.
It's all with the steal. It's McDonald.
Pressure up the line, taking away the three-point shot,
But no matter how strong the front, the truth remains. The Fever's future now hinges on something only a handful of people inside the organization can influence. The secrecy around Caitlin's situation has become part of the story. A storm of intrigue where every day, without an update, spawns a new theory. Is this a short-term break? A season-ending absence? The first hint of a larger shift in her career? Nobody outside the inner circle knows. Not the analysts dissecting game tape. Not the fans who have ridden every high and low of the season. Not even the reporters digging for that elusive scoop. And maybe that's the point. Maybe keeping it locked away is the only way to shield her from the relentless churn of public opinion. What began as a gut punch announcement has evolved into one of the WNBA season's defining mysteries. A story about loyalty and friendship just as much as it is about basketball. Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull have drawn their line in the sand. They'll take the questions, the speculation, even the heat of criticism, if it means Caitlin can face whatever storm she's in on her own terms. The rest of the league, the fans, and the media will have to do the hardest thing in sports: wait. Wait for the moment when, whether it's next week, next month, or next season, Caitlin Clark steps back on the court and see how much the game and perhaps the league itself has changed in her absence.